Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I want to know how you made it through the level 3 snow emergency and snowmageddon and all that kind of stuff. How did that go for you before I tell you how I'm doing?
I'm still working through it. I live at the end of the street, and most of the street has been plowed right up to my car. So now I've got to dig all that out. What was once, say, 18 inches of legit snow is now like 8 feet of 3 feet of snow that I've got to. I don't know how the cubic things all work in there, but probably several hundred feet of snow that I still have to dig to be able to get out. But I don't need to go anywhere just yet for another day or so. So I still have that to do. But Tom, enough about me. Please. What about you?
Well, it was my daughter's birthday recently, and we had told her, yeah, have a sleepover. It'll be fine. Have some girls over. No problem. And we saw the snow was coming and was like, well, that's fine. Well, they'll come over. Just have them bring an extra day of clothes if they get stuck here, whatever. Tony, my daughter's friends are wonderful. They are very well behaved. I also see why nature does not make quintuplets like a thing that happens a lot, because 5 kids of the same age at the same place is like a lot. It is not something I would recommend as a full-time venture. It was delightful. The snow emergency level went down from 3 to 2, and now we are back to a nice, very quiet house. You know how like when you have like a whole party and then everyone leaves, and then it's like, wow, the house is so quiet. It's like, that's right now. It's like blissful silence.
About 13 years ago or so, I was babysitting my brother's and his wife's 3 kids, all of from 1 to 6, and my sister-in-law's 3 kids, all of 1 to 8, right? Just me by myself. After that day, I called my mother and I apologized. I'm just like, Mom, I'm sorry for everything I've ever done as a bad kid. I shouldn't have done it. I appreciate you now more than ever. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm still scarred from it this day. You have to live it, clearly, not every day, but
often enough.
Recently. Yes.
Often enough. Yes. So we do have to talk about the news that broke while I was doing a much more normal thing, which was just standing at a hockey rink watching my kid play hockey. The Arthur Smith news, which I had just finished doing a show with Ross Fulton, sort of talking about different offensive coordinators. And that was one of the names that got mentioned on that show, but had not had a chance to really, you did a show with Chuck because you texted me and say, hey, where are you? And I said, where am I always? At an ice rink. Why are you asking this time? And the answer was, well, major news has broken. So, you have sort of gotten a chance to share your thoughts on this hire, correct?
Yep. We talked about it, but I know the people still need to know what Tom thinks about it.
Well, a lot of my view of this, this is an NFL guy, which once college football players leave college, it's like they go into the college football afterlife. And I assume some of them are in good places and happy places, and there's harps and winning teams. And sometimes there's fire and pointy rocks and New York Jets helmets. But, it's wherever they go, I don't see them anymore. So I don't really have any opinion on specifics of NFL people. But to me, this hire, a lot of this is just, number one, well, first of all, I've seen some people very, very concerned about this hire. Very concerned. Like this is potentially going to be a disaster. And I think the odds that this is a disaster are extremely low, because this is a hire on the offensive side of the ball. This is Ryan Day's side of the ball. Ryan Day is always going to have a say on this. And, you have a spectrum of Ryan Day offenses from pretty good to extraordinary. And I don't see any reason that this is going to end up anywhere outside that. So I think, if it's a defensive hire and it's a bad defensive hire, and he hasn't had a bad defensive hire in several years, but when there's a bad defensive hire, yeah, you could have a real bad defense. You don't ever have a really bad Ohio State offense. It's just sometimes it's extremely good and sometimes it's, okay to slightly better than okay. this is one where I don't think there's a terrible outcome here with Arthur Smith, number one. Number two, I think this hire to me is a lot about just having another adult in the room who can just do all the organizational stuff, run the meetings, someone who has done this before. And, I'm not trying to slam Brian Hartline, but Brian Hartline was doing that for the first time. And there's a little bit of a learning on the job element of that. Arthur Smith, I have seen the one fact that I have seen a bunch about him, about his tenure in the NFL is he's never been fired. He's never been fired for performance. He's always been perfectly fine at what he's done, which means he's handling all the organizational stuff. He's handling all the administrative stuff. He's handling all that. And he's also probably sequencing plays pretty well. I know people are very concerned. I've seen lots of talk about they were terrible and they never threw the ball and they were really bad. And then you look at who the Steelers wide receivers were last year and it's like, who is that a Madden create a player? I have no idea who that is. And so you're sort of, he was being conservative last year. Yeah, he was managing to the personnel he has. And my sense with him is he's probably a little bit more run focused and, run design. He can bring a lot more to the run game in terms of new creative design and all that kind of stuff. That's where Ohio State has really needed a little bit more. I mean, you need a little bit more in terms of creativity in the run game. Ryan Day in the passing game feels like, again, he's always going to be at least pretty good in the passing game. When did they win the national championship? When they brought in Chip Kelly, who was sort of a specialist in the run game and all that. So you can look at all those things and it just feels like he checks a lot of boxes. I think we all sort of looked after last season and said, you got to go outside. You got to bring in someone who has done this before. This can't be an internal hire. This can't be a learning on the job kind of thing. They had to do that to keep Brian Hartline last year. And okay, we get it and we understand. And you got to keep Jeremiah Smith here and you got to keep Chris Henry coming in and all that kind of stuff. We get it. But now that is not a concern. So now you've got to kind of address the kind of core stuff and the core issues that you've been having. And I think he checks a lot of those boxes.
Yeah, I'll just save the comments. He was fired as the head coach, but he's never been fired as a play caller, which is what he's doing here. That's
right. Yeah. Okay. Thing. Yes. Right. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is also going to be the first time Ohio State has ever had an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator where neither of them are coaching a position. So that means the position that is being coached is not being lessened or distracted by, I've got to go do this meeting. I've got to go, we'll just have the intern help you or have the assistant to the assistant help you guys. So all of the positions are covered and you've got these two coordinators that can just do that. And so they're not asked to be in two places, but they can be wherever they want. Like we've seen Matt Patricia goes wherever he wants. That's kind of what you would maybe prefer to have your coordinators do. And Arthur Smith, I mean, you look in 2019 and 2020, he was an OC at Tennessee. They were number 3 and number 2 in rushing. And in his 2 years at Pittsburgh, number 11 in rushing, number 26 this past year with Mr. Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback and a bunch of other just randos trying to put together an offense. Everybody wanted this Ohio State offense, the running game, to get better. I am 100% confident that this will do that. Is it the most exciting hire? Would you rather pick up 3rd and 2 on the ground, or would you rather have to throw for it? Like, throwing for it on 3rd and 2 is more exciting than running for it. How much more effective is it? So I think you've got enough excitement on offense if Ryan Day chooses to with his offense. But you needed to improve the running game. You needed to improve just the ability to move the ball on the ground, whether that's getting 6 yards on first down, 4 or 5 yards on first down. Look how effective Miami was. They made it to the championship game with a very boring offense, but one that led themselves to a bunch of 3rd and shorts. And so there's some part of me that's like, gosh, Ohio State's going to have an even more boring offense this year. I don't I don't know that you need to have a boring offense this year, because if you've got a better running game, then that's also going to make the offense better as a whole and ideally more explosive, because, hey, guess what? You got to focus on the run now, too, as a defense. And what happens then? Boom, go over the top.
Well, and if the run game's better, that allows you to scheme around the fact that your quarterback isn't necessarily a running quarterback, that you have a very, very good quarterback. I just saw one of those PFF player ranking things, and Julian Sain was ranked as like the number 6 player in college football this last year. I know everyone, they had a couple low scoring games at the end of the year, and everyone now thinks he's terrible and is ready to, why aren't they bringing someone in the portal and all the usual hysteria? But you have a very good quarterback, but not a quarterback who is running. Well, now you have an offensive coordinator who can sort of scheme around that and allow you to run the ball, even if you don't have a running quarterback. And one other thing, you mentioned he's not coaching a position. He's also not going to have a recruiting responsibility, is my understanding. So that's one less thing he's got to worry about. He can just worry about scheming up the offense, finding good ways to use these different, use talent in different and creative ways. He's also going to have a veteran offensive line, which is not something they have really had the luxury of having, kind of consistently veteran offensive line everywhere across the line for a number of years. And that this is, again, something where a veteran offensive line, you've got now not a true freshman running back as RB1. You've got a guy who now has had a year to play at the college level and another year in the strength conditioning program and all that kind of stuff. And so you have the opportunity to really be a pretty effective run game. And if you have a pretty effective run game, and then, that takes a lot of the pressure, as you said, off the passing game, and then potentially open some more stuff up in the passing game. And, a boring offense. What does a boring offense look like at Ohio State? It feels like this is not, I remember the Jim Tressel era. I remember what boring offense looks like. I have not seen boring offense at Ohio State since Urban Meyer walked in the door, basically. I mean, maybe you want to say 2012, maybe a little bit 2012, but not much. It got pretty exciting pretty fast, and they have had varying degrees of explosiveness over those years, but they have been generally pretty darn efficient since, outside of small hiccups here and there. Yes, I remember the Fiesta Bowl in 2016. Yes, I know, in fact, what the last couple of games looked like. Yeah, I get it. But generally, that has been the exception, not the rule. And I think that will probably continue to be the exception.
I know there's some concern about being able to run the ball without a quarterback that can run. When Justin Fields was here, Ohio State ran the ball. They led the Big Ten in rushing, 250, 260 yards per game. But even when C.J. Stroud was here, they finished top 3, top 4 in rushing, but in 2021, they averaged 5.5 yards a carry. In 2022, they averaged 5.4 yards per carry. The last 2 years, that would put them right at the top of the Big Ten, and they would take that. So there is a history of being able to run the ball without a quarterback who will run. We'll see what that looks like in 2026. Tom, anything else before we go?
The only other thing is the extremely fun fact that it's been fun watching people learn recently, which is that his dad was the founder of FedEx, and then have just watched the light bulb go off over everyone's head. He could probably do some cool things in NIL, and, I'm sure if that's a legal thing, they will explore that to whatever degree they can.
I mean, we've seen head coaches give money to the NIL fund, so shoot. But yeah, I believe his name was brought up back when Bill O'Brien was hired, before Bill O'Brien was hired, when Ryan Day was looking for some. And that was also one of the things there. It's like, well, clearly that's got to put him at the top of the list, doesn't it? Like, well, there is also the football aspect of it. And I don't want to hear it. I just want to talk about the money. But so there you go. Got Tom's thoughts on the hiring of Arthur Smith. Not yet been made official by Ohio State, but also they have not said no. So that will do it from here. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. We'd appreciate that. 5-star rating and review on the podcast side of things is always appreciated as well. And you can continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.